I've had several people request the topic of why drummer David Silveria left Korn, so let's get to it. On December 13, 2006, Korn would announce that David Silveria was taking a break from the band. While it was expected he'd return sometime in the future, that of course wasn't the case. Silveria would be one of the founding members of Korn, first being a member of the group LAPD with James Schaefer and Reginald Fieldy Arvizu, and LAPD would stand for Love and Peace Dude. Soon enough, frontman Jonathan Davis joined the trio and they added Brian Head Welch, and they soon changed their name to Korn, with the reversed R being a tip of the hat to Toys R Us, where several of the members worked. It was over the next decade and a half or so that the new metal band would release several hugely successful albums, and by the late 90s, Korn was one of the biggest bands in the world. It was in 2005 they would release what would be their final record with Silveria, titled See You on the Other Side. The following year in December, it was announced that Silveria was taking a hiatus from the group. Then in 2007, Kerrang! Magazine interviewed frontman Jonathan Davis about the drummer's hiatus, to which he responded, "It was a mutual decision between the band, but on a basic level, David's playing and his technique were just gone. We were quite worried when we were getting ready to make our new album. We'd set up rehearsals and David was like, 'No, I can't make it.' And then we'd arrange another one and he'd be like, 'No, can't make it.' So I said to him, 'I think you need to take a break,' and I haven't heard from him since." Davis would maintain that Silveria was still in fact a member of the band, and that he'd eventually come back. Another part of Silveria's life that was taking up a lot of his time was that he owned a few restaurants, or co-owned a few restaurants, including a steak and sushi place. Then in 2013, things got pretty ugly. Silveria, who'd been out of Korn for about 7 years, would take to social media and interacted with his fans and took some swipes at his former bandmates, including Fieldy and Davis. Fieldy had put out a book in 2010 and was critical of Silveria. A fan would ask Silveria on Facebook, and I quote, "Reading Fieldy's book, he mentions saying how he threw down his bass and called you out to fight him, and after that you two never got along. What the hell happened?" they would ask. "Did you put him in an armbar?" Silveria would respond in a lengthy post saying, "Haha, Fieldy never threw down his bass and tried to fight me. He is a coward with a big mouth, and he knows I would beat his ass like the little wimp that he is. I would love for him to talk shit to my face now. I would crush him like a bitch." He would add, "Before I left the band, he became a Christian, but he just really became a judgmental, self-righteous idiot. Seriously." He would go on to blast Korn's music since he left the group, stating that the original Korn sound is now gone. "It's the Jonathan Davis show now, and it's just no good." As for the comment Davis had about Silveria's technique and playing being gone, the drummer would respond, "That's ridiculous. John's balls were gone because his wife put them in a jar he'd write with a smiley face." It was in 2013, Davis was asked by a fan on Twitter whether he'd ever consider reuniting with the drummer, to which he responded, "I will never play with him again." Silveria seemed like he had no animosity towards guitarist Monkey and the band's current drummer Ray Luzier, saying that he was a nice guy, but also stating Ray, and I quote, "butchered his songs." Silveria would also post on Facebook that Korn's sound changed for the worse starting with their fourth record, 1999's Issues, blaming producers and the other band members. "One of the great things about music," he'd write, "is that there's no rules. I was being asked to be a puppet and dumb down my playing and be a good boy. Pretty lame, right?" Fast forward to 2015 and Silveria files a lawsuit against Korn, claiming that his hiatus from the band was supposed to be temporary and that he never gave up his ownership share in the band. The lawsuit would ask the judge to force Korn to reveal how much cash they've made since he had left the band and for him to get his cut, and then in addition to that he wanted to dissolve his partnership with the band. It came out in the lawsuit that Silveria tried to rejoin Korn in 2013 but was told by the band's manager that the other members didn't want him to return. Silveria also took to social media to share a poorly photoshopped blabbermouth headline which claimed that fans wanted him back in the group. Someone in his comments section would point out that Silveria's past comments about the members of Korn likely had something to do with him now returning to the band. Monkey, who had previously left Korn, would return to the band in 2013 and be interviewed about the band's forthcoming album at the time, to which he said, and I quote, "It'll solidify our legacy." Silveria responded to this on Facebook, writing, "They just don't have it in them to write songs that can stand up to our first 3 records," adding, "I'm sure their new record will be more shit." Then in 2019, it was reported that the members of Korn were countersuing Silveria. It turned out they had settled his 2015 lawsuit with him out of court with a one-time lump sum payment that saw the drummer forfeit any future earnings. Their lawsuit alleged that Silveria contacted the royalty payment company Sound Exchange and tried to collect money he'd legally given up. Korn claimed he was paid somewhere in the amount of $300,000 that he wasn't owed. With the dispute breaking out, the company said that they weren't going to pay any of the members of Korn until the matter was resolved. Silveria then countersued the members of Korn and even published the band's 2003 online agreement, with a countersuit claiming that the 2016 settlement neglected the 2003 agreement between the band and Sound Exchange. Silveria would reveal in 2019 that he has since apologized to the members of Korn for his comments, and it was the same year, he would be interviewed by the X-Man podcast, where he shed some more light on exactly what happened around the time he left the group. He would say, "Nobody really knows this either, but last year I was with Korn. It was a day where we were shooting a video. I was working out in my house and I was doing squats with dumbbells in my hand, and I bent down and I looked up to see what was on the TV, and I arced my back backwards and I broke my back." Silveria would add that he broke 4 bones in his lower back. He would end up seeing a doctor first who misdiagnosed him and gave him a bunch of pain medication, which he soon became addicted to. Silveria would go on to say that the pain in his back was so severe that he couldn't walk more than 50 feet before needing to sit down for several minutes, and then he could walk another 50 feet and repeat the same process. Almost a year and a half would go by during this time, and he would leave Korn, and he would see another specialist at UC Irvine, and the specialist would tell him that his back has been broken for nearly a year and a half. He would require surgery that would put him out of commission for 6 to 7 months, and he wouldn't be playing drums during that time. In the same interview, he would cite a communication breakdown between himself and the band for him leaving the group. He would say, "I think everyone kind of grew apart a little bit. People, band members start being kind of demanding about things, and instead of talking as a band, individuals would start calling our managers and talking to them about things, and it kind of broke our communication between all of us as a band." In late 2020, Silveria would say that he hasn't listened to any of Korn's music since he left in 2006, but he would note in the same interview, it wasn't out of spite or anger, but rather he just wasn't interested in the type of music the band was playing anymore. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. If you guys would like to see certain stories on my channel, use the link in the description box below, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.